There are, of course, some losses you can live with. Some losses that are just down to the ball going in or out of the basket. Some losses that you're just not good enough that day. And then there are losses like Sunday night. Losses that can never happen again. And if they do, well, we've been down that road before. Let's dive into it as the Orlando Magic fall to the Boston Celtics on today's Locked On Magic.
You are Locked On Magic, your daily Orlando Magic podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And you are indeed Locked On Magic. Today is January 3rd, 2022, our first episode of 2022. My name is Phil Broswick. I'm the site expert and editor over at OrlandoMagicDaily.com. Of course, follow me on Twitter at PhilipRR_OMD. On today's episode of Locked On Magic, we will talk about the Orlando Magic's loss to the Boston Celtics, what went wrong, why it's an important lesson for this team, and why history cannot repeat itself. We'll talk about that coming up here in just a moment. But before we do that, we want to thank you for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. No matter when you listen to us, whether it's the first thing you do, when you turn your phone on, or when you listen to podcasts, whether it's at work, while you're working out, whenever, we truly appreciate you making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. Remember, the Locked On Podcast Network, it's your team every day. With about 4.5 minutes to play in Sunday's game, the Orlando Magic had a 14-point lead. They had brushed aside the offensive struggles of the first half. They found their rhythm. They forced turnovers. They got out in transition. They got easy baskets. They found their rhythm. They found their style. They found a way to dominate this game. Their defense played well. The Celtics were doing all the things that they cannot do if they're going to win games. And Orlando was doing all the things that they needed to do. They defended well. Their players made shots. They hung tough. You know, they showed all the fight that they're used to showing and was finally seemingly coming to fruition for a win. Terrence Ross hit a bunch of shots. Gary Harris hit a bunch of shots. Franz Wagner hit the shot that put the Magic up by 14. It felt like Orlando was going to coast to an easy victory. It felt like Orlando was going to coast to a win and get a really nice one at that. At that point, the statistics site improbable.com estimated the Magic had a 99.1% chance of winning. Again, on the road, up 14, 4.5 to go. It's hard to argue with that. So how are we sitting here talking about an Orlando Magic loss? What needs to happen for that to take place? Well, you need the right combination of things. Yes, Jaylen Brown was incredible. He scored 16 points from that point of the game until the end of regulation, making all 6 of his shots. You need to make shots. It's that simple. You need the other team to go into a shell, to get a little staggered. And that certainly happened. And certainly when a foul call, when a block on Wendell Carter that was originally called a foul was turned into a legal block and a jump ball, that certainly sent the Magic back a little bit, got them frustrated. You could see it in their eyes. It takes wild turnovers, like a 5-second violation in a tie game with 30 seconds left. It takes missed free throws. Franz Wagner missing 2 with 2 minutes to go that would have kept the Magic up by 6. It takes a lot of things. It takes a young team that doesn't quite know how to finish games. Orlando, without a real point guard, no offense, Tim Frazier, struggled to get into their sets as the game got tighter, as the Celtics increased their pressure. And when the Magic did get a mismatch they wanted in Franz Wagner, he finally looked like a rookie. Marcus Smart came over and stole the ball from him, literally ripping it out of his hands and starting a fast break that Jaylen Brown finished. The Magic ultimately gave up an 18-4 run in those final 4.5 minutes of the fourth quarter to send the game to overtime. If not for Tim Frazier hitting a layup with 21 seconds left, the Magic would have lost straight up in regulation. And you've heard, me, wins matter to me. I know there are some people who are okay with the loss because of the tanking implications, because of the draft implications, but the fact of the matter is the Magic had enough of their regular guys in at the end of this one to win. You're up 14 with 4.5 minutes to go. You need to win that game because ultimately we are thinking about the big picture, that long-term goal, that winning still matters. And if winning doesn't matter, then what the hell are we doing out here? There are still players who need that winning experience. And I said this as that deficit was trimmed down to 7-8 points. This is a real big test of the Magic's poise without a point guard, without all these things that the Magic usually have. And so maybe it's not completely real. Without a point guard, the Magic needed to hold their poise and get the win. This is a huge lesson that unfortunately they had to learn without winning. As Stan Van Gundy would often say, you want to learn your lessons while winning. And the good teams tend to do that. Give the Magic credit, though. Overtime came and Boston was still on a roll. They scored 5 points fairly quickly. They took a 6-point lead there in the overtime period. It looked like the Magic were going to get run out, and then they found their way back in. Terrence Ross hit a 3-pointer, got fouled, made a 4-point play to cut that 6-point deficit down to 2. Then Wendell Carter got a big block and stop, and then Orlando was able to climb all the way back, was able to get all the way back and get to the foul line for Wendell Carter to tie the game. Wendell missed that first free throw, though, so it remained a 1-point deficit. And then Al Horford hit a back-breaking 3-pointer as Orlando collapsed around Jaylen Brown. The Boston Celtics went on to win 116-111 in overtime. Jaylen Brown hit 50 points in the game as Boston just continues to struggle and continues to look like a disjointed team, but obviously not disjointed enough to lose to the Magic in this instance. At the end of the day, the Celtics had a guy who could create his own shot, who could go out and get a basket. And Orlando was searching. As good as Franz Wagner has been, he is not quite that yet. And this was certainly the first game in a long time that he's looked like a rookie. Terrence Ross is a gunner, is a bucket, and he got his shots going. But Orlando ultimately, and this was a struggle they had in the first quarter when they fell behind by double digits. It was a struggle in that fourth quarter. Orlando ultimately did not have someone who could get to the basket, who could create a shot for himself and could score consistently. When the chips were down, the Magic didn't have that guy. In fact, that guy was probably sitting on the bench in a bright blue sweatsuit. I don't know what else to call it. The team really missed Cole Anthony in this instance. Certainly probably missed a guy like Markelle Fultz. And, we can talk a lot about what the Magic didn't have, what the Magic don't have. At the end of the day, this is still a game the Magic have to win. You got to hold yourself to a standard. You got to hold yourself to a belief that the team's going to be a winning team at some point. And again, we're only looking for the hints and outlines of what this team can be this season, but you find those hints and outlines in the wins that you collect, in the wins that you amass. And unfortunately, this is a familiar thing for the Orlando Magic. We'll talk more about that coming up. There's a lot of discussion among Magic fans after the game, and a lot of it is fair. Certainly, I think Orlando got rattled. They showed their youth, and while Tim Frazier's been in the league a long time, everyone showed their inexperience in this game, and especially their inexperience together. Terrence Ross runs hot and cold, so it's not surprising that maybe he didn't completely have it. But at the end of the day, the Magic showed that they still have a long way to go. And that goes for everyone, not just the players, but the coaching staff too. Jamal Mosley's done a great job developing players and getting guys to improve as, of course, the season goes on. He deserves a lot of credit for the way that this Magic team is stuck together and still really buys in and believes in each other. With the Magic are off to the worst start in franchise history. Their worst, 36-game start in franchise history now. It would be easy to see this team splinter and really struggle. I would not blame them for doing that. I would not blame them for letting go of the rope. The fact that they fought back in overtime is honestly a credit to Jamal Mosley. But at the same time, there were a lot of decisions and a lot of plays and a lot of things that Mosley did that come to game management that he did not do well, that he did not execute well on his end. There was a jump ball in overtime with the Magic. I believe they were down by 3. They tried a dribble handoff between Frazier and Harris. Harris ended up running into Frazier, kind of knocked him over, and the Celtics were able to get a jump ball out of it. That should have been a quick timeout almost immediately. It was, not getting a timeout after a rebound late in the game to give themselves the last shot at the last shot in regulation. Orlando essentially left regulation with a timeout still in their pocket. They saved a timeout for when they were down by 4 with 6.6 seconds left, instead of spending that timeout earlier in overtime, perhaps to advance the ball and give themselves a real chance to win. There are certainly fair questions about the rotations and how Mosley's constructed his rotations to give the team a chance to win night to night. A lot of fans questioning the decision to go with Tim Frazier in this game. I think those are fair questions to ask and fair questions to wonder, especially coming out of a loss. Although I think Frazier has just become a scapegoat in a lot of ways as well on that front. On that front too, we'll dive in the box score in a minute. But overall, this was a team that was inexperienced, and it showed. It was a team that was depleted. It was a team that was tired. It was a team that was staggered. It was a team that got put on its back foot at the time when you need to be the most aggressive and the most confident. And you could see that confidence slipping, the confidence that they had built in that third quarter, in that fourth quarter, in building their lead. The Magic fall 116-111 to the Boston Celtics in overtime. It was certainly a game the Magic should have won, a game the Magic could have won, and a game that they cannot let happen again. We'll dive into that coming up here in a minute after we go through the box score. But first, a quick word from our pals at Built Bar. It's the new year, and that means New Year's resolutions. I've started on mine. I'm trying to make exercise more of a priority for me this year. I'm trying to eat a little bit healthier, but I think exercise will help me out a lot. So make sure you include Built Bar as part of your New Year's resolution plans. Built Bar is a protein bar that tastes like a candy bar, maybe even a little bit better than a candy bar. Built Bar makes it easier to stick to your resolution because it tastes so good. You want to eat it. Unlike other protein bars, which can be chalky or waxy or just taste terrible, like a chemical spill or something. You want to eat healthy, but it just gets so boring. So by like week 3 of your New Year's resolution, you might be thinking, this is just not worth it. Where is the chocolate? Where is the savoriness? Where is the flavor? Well, that's why Built Bars have you covered with 100% real chocolate. Most Built Bars contain only 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 grams of net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. They're not your typical candy bar, obviously, because they don't have all the calories that a candy bar would have, or the sugar or any of that. This is truly a chocolate bar that is for your health, that will give you the protein you need to get you through your day. Make sure you have them everywhere you need them so you can grab a Built Bar on the go. Even if you're not a huge fan of working out, you can at least see something that tastes good and is good for you to replace some of those sweets that may not be as good for you. There's so many flavors to choose from too, so you will not get bored. Whether it's coconut almond, peanut butter brownie, raspberry, cookies and cream, salted caramel, mint brownie, and many, many more. In fact, Built is always coming out with new flavors, limited time flavors, so check out Built.com often to see what's new. Go to Built.com and use promo code LOCK15 and get 15% off your order. Again, use promo code LOCK15 for 15% off at Built.com. We want to thank you again for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day, whether you're your first listen or you listen to us throughout the day. We truly appreciate you making us part of your daily routine. So now, for your next listen, check out the Locked On Now podcast. They have nightly recaps of every NBA game with analysis from our local experts. Listen to Locked On Now on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or watch it on the Locked On NBA YouTube channel. Let's run through that final box score for you real fast as your Orlando Magic fall to the Boston Celtics, 116-111 in overtime. Again, just Magic, again, I'll dive into this more, but you can deal with close losses. Close losses don't bother me. They come down to make or miss shots. Losses like this are the ones that bother me, the ones where the Magic make the mistakes, where they have the lead, where they give the game away, where they aren't able to execute. If you make or miss a shot, I don't care. That's fine. Those are losses you can live with until the playoffs at least. Games where it's mistake after mistake after mistake, those are the ones that really, really kill you. And that's really what happened here as the Magic fall to 7-30 on the season. Orlando's led in scoring by Terrence Ross, 33 points, 11 for 19 shooting, 4 for 8 from beyond the arc, 7 for 7 from the foul line. Ross playing his first game after exiting COVID protocols. He said after the game that he did have symptoms. He was laid up for a little while, just dealing with kind of the cold effects of COVID. Said he still has a little bit of a cough. So really an incredible feat that Ross was able to play 35 and a half minutes and really be a big factor in this game. I thought he played really, really well. Obviously, once Ross gets cooking, it is hard to slow him down. Magic almost leaned on him too much because he did go cold there in the late fourth quarter as well as in overtime. Although he did still hit some big shots in the process. When Ross has these 33-point games, the Magic are capable of beating anyone. We've known that since 2019, really. When he gets going like this, they are a really dynamic team because Ross is just such a unique offensive talent with his ability to get his shot off in very, very little space. It's sort of the other guys that you have to wonder where they were throughout the game. Gary Harris, 23 points, 9 for 16 shooting, 1 for 5 from deep, 4 for 6 from the foul line. He eventually did foul out for the Magic. Harris was really good in the third quarter, especially though. Just kind of gave the team its center. They struggled just to get free, just to get into the lane, just to make anything happen in that first quarter or in that first half, especially. Their offense was just really, really sluggish. Harris was really the only guy that was able to get it going, able to figure out how to break the Celtics pressing defense, their switching defense, just really, really, really killed them. So Harris continued his strong play, played 42.5 minutes. So a lot of minutes for Gary Harris in this one, especially on the first night of the back-to-back. Wendell Carter, 15 points, 5 for 15 shooting, 1 for 4 from deep, 4 for 5 from the line, 16 rebounds, 7 assists. Carter was really good too. His scoring wasn't where you wanted to be, but again, the Magic have done a really good job using him as a fulcrum for the offense. He's becoming a much better distributor. Not necessarily playmakers, not doing it off the dribble, but he makes good passes. He makes a lot of clean passes and just does a lot of really good things defensively as well. His defense was pretty solid throughout the course of the night. So Wendell continues to play some very impressive basketball. Franz Wagner, like I said, probably the first night he has looked like a rookie. 14 points, 5 for 14 shooting, 0 for 1 from deep. That came in the overtime with a chance to take the lead. When the Magic were down by 2, Carter was actually fouled on the rebound that gave the Magic a chance to tie the game. I like the shots that Boston stuck Marcus Smart on Franz Wagner. They were making sure he was not going to be the guy that beat them. He had 3 turnovers, but still he made some really impressive plays. Once you could kind of see him build some momentum. Like he's still trying to learn how to create a little bit off the dribble. I think really the thing that he needs to work on this offseason, besides just learning to finish at the rim a little bit better, 2 dribble pull up to the free throw line, being able to kind of set up his mid-range jumper. He's earned the right to shoot mid-range jumpers. Once he does that, he's going to be really, really difficult to stop, especially off the dribble because he is so smart at how he attacks. Just a lot of plays where he was just a little bit off balance, just not able to kind of put himself in the best position to score, especially around the rim. He tends to do that sometimes, but hey, he's a rookie. He's going to learn these things. He's going to get better at these things. So, Wagner still ultimately made a good impact on this game in some key moments. The Magic put the ball in his hands late in the game. He got some decent looks around the basket, just unable to finish them at the end. And of course, that's just something that a rookie's going to have to learn how to do. Let's talk about Tim Frazier. 14 points, 5 for 9 shooting, 1 for 2 from deep, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 turnovers. Everyone in the Magic starting lineup outside Mo Bamba had 3 turnovers. So that's 12 turnovers from that starting lineup. 12 of the Magic, 17 turnovers from that starting group. I think Tim Frazier is getting a bit of a bad rap among Magic fans. He's just become the scapegoat. Every team has a scapegoat. He's turned in some good games lately. Obviously the scoring's there. He's a decent 3-point shooter. He's got good scoring knack. He tied the game. He's the guy that sent the game to overtime. I do think he is not quite a natural point guard, although he's shown more point guard tendencies than RJ Hampton has. That's kind of the guy that Magic fans want to put in these games instead of him. I think that Frazier has played a lot better than fans have given him credit for. I'm not saying he's good. I think his defense is a little bit suspect still. And his scoring is certainly, you want a little bit more playmaking. You want a little bit more initiation. You want a guy that's going to know how to organize things, and that's just not quite his forte. Again, he joined the team like 2 weeks ago. He admitted after Thursday's game that he's still learning everything. He's in a really tough spot. I think he's played decently well. Again, not perfect by any means. I'm not saying the Magic should keep him. I'm not even saying the Magic should play him over Hassani Gravett at this point. But I do think Magic fans have been unnecessarily hard on him. Now, RJ Hampton, I think, has earned more opportunity. I think that it's fair to ask, why not try RJ Hampton at point guard? They've tried Franz Wagner there. I think that is a perfectly fair thing to ask. Hampton in this game played only 11.5 minutes. It is very odd that at times Hampton feels like the forgotten guy in this rotation. I think that is unfair to Hampton. I think he has earned more playing time. I think he has earned a little bit of trust. If Franz Wagner can run some point and initiate some offense, there's no reason to think that RJ Hampton can't split those duties as well. I think the Magic are really going out of their way at times to keep Hampton from playing point guard. Why I wouldn't be able to begin to speculate. I think for his development, they may not want him doing that. They want him working on other areas of his game. If it's for the sake of development, then I think you can forgive that. I think you can get that. The Magic, again, as much as I think winning is important, the Magic very clearly not going for wins. They are not putting out rotations that are necessarily designed for them to win. They're designed to put players in certain situations that they want to put them in. They want to try Franz Wagner as a point guard, as a ball handler. They do not want to try RJ Hampton there. Now, whether that's right or wrong is certainly something that you can debate, but they are acting and playing like that is what they want to do. And that's how they want to play this. So I think you do have to take that into some consideration for the Magic as they make these rotations. Jamal Mosley's rotations certainly have been a point of criticism throughout the course of the year. And I don't think I can completely disagree with them. Orlando ultimately shoots 42.6% from the floor, 9 for 27 from beyond the arc, 22 for 27 from the foul line. They end up with 17 turnovers for 23 Boston points. A lot of those coming toward the end of the game. Boston is led in scoring by Jaylen Brown with 50 points, 19 for 29 shooting, 5 for 10 from beyond the arc, 7 for 8 from the foul line. He adds 11 rebounds and 4 assists. 7 turnovers for him as well. Boston really struggled with turnovers. They had 20 turnovers through 3 quarters, but only 22 turnovers total for the game. That led to 21 Magic points. Magic really feasted on turnovers throughout the course of the game. Did not get that in the fourth quarter. Probably one of the reasons why they ultimately lost. Dennis Schroeder, 21 points, 7 for 14 shooting for him. Marcus Smart, 17 points for him as the Boston Celtics defeat the Orlando Magic 116 to 111 in overtime. We'll talk about why losses like this have to serve as lessons but cannot be repeated coming up here in just a moment, because I have to put a pause here for my ad reads, for our ads on the podcast. But we've been here before. That's the only way I can say it. We've been here before as Magic fans, as people who followed this team, who followed this group. We've seen losses exactly like this from rebuilding teams. The loss to Cleveland when the Magic were, I think, up 7 with 30 seconds left and turned it over twice on inbounds, including a 5-second violation. We've seen some gnarly losses. The kind of losses that, you can rightfully statistically call impossible losses. The losses where everything has to go right and everything has to go wrong in order for the team to lose. Look, the Magic don't lose this game if that call with about 2.5, 3 minutes to play on Wendell Carter goes the other way. The Magic do not lose this game if Franz Wagner makes those 2 free throws to put the Magic up 6. The Magic do not lose this game if they don't have a 5-second inbounds violation in a tie game and give Boston the chance to take the lead. The Magic do not lose this game if just one shot goes in, if the Magic get a timeout and calm themselves down, get a turnover, if Jaylen Brown misses a 3 or a shot somewhere. There are so many things that had to go right for Boston to win this game, and all credit to them for doing it, for upping their defensive pressure, for making the Magic uncomfortable, for doing, as Wendell Carter and Terrence Ross both said after the game, speeding this team up. The Magic are a young team without a point guard right now. Again, all due respect to Tim Frazier. The Magic do not have a point guard right now. And they are susceptible to these kinds of mistakes. But to have this happen takes all of that happening. Takes every little thing going the direction of the Celtics. It's not that losses like these can't happen, but they are exceptionally rare. However, for rebuilding teams learning how to win, these losses are particularly hard. Because this is the hardest lesson that any team has to learn. And that's how to win. That lesson is how to win the game. It's the hardest thing to do in the league. The absolute hardest thing to do is to win. And very, very clearly, even leads that feel safe are not safe. Not in the least. And it's tough for young teams to learn this. Essentially every game the Magic have won this year, they came from behind to win. They had to scramble. They had to show the panic and the desire to win. And it's good that they've been able to do that. But holding off teams doing that is also extremely tough. And again, doing it with a lead that should feel safe. When the Magic went up 14, that felt like the Magic were going to win and win this one easily. They just had to take care of their business. Well, obviously a lot easier said than done. These are the kind of losses, however, that do make you lose faith in a rebuild. And that do make you think, oh boy, we're a lot farther away than we thought. If they're not learning how to put this game away, how are they going to eventually string together a winning streak? How are they eventually going to string together enough wins to make the playoffs? Are they going to compete in a playoff series where crazy stuff happens? Where every minute, every moment matters. The Magic are obviously far away from that point. And obviously, there are extenuating circumstances. I can tell you right now, if Markelle Fultz were in this game, if Cole Anthony were in this game, the Magic were going to win. I still have so much faith in this team to close games out because of the guys that they have. And obviously, they're not available for this game. You still have to find a way. But there's no reason for me, in my mind at least, to think that the Magic don't win this game if they even have a modicum of health. Honestly, I'd give them a better than 50-50 shot of winning and holding on to that lead if Jalen Suggs is playing. Just because of the organization and the ability to just kind of get the team settled down and calm down through the course and just make a play. Like that was one of the bigger things. Is no one was able to make a play to close this game out. But obviously the Magic have to live with this loss. They have to live with this failure. They have to live with this lesson. And what has to happen now is they have to take that lesson to heart. A rebuilding team, it's obviously a difficult task. It's obviously hard to be a rebuilding team. It's hard to get all those pieces together enough. But when presented with the opportunity to win, you need to learn how to win. And so this is a lesson. The next time the Magic are up 14 with 5 minutes to go, what will they do? In previous iterations of this team, we've seen them fold. We've seen them take these losses and it spiral and snowball. And then it happens again. Losses like this do happen. It's not impossible, but what has to happen now is the Magic have to learn the lesson of this defeat. The Magic have to learn the lesson of this failure. Not only how they need to finish games, how to play with the lead, but how they need to stick together. It's been impressive watching this Magic team be as together as they have been, to be as cohesive and bought in as they have been with all the losing that they've done. But this is the kind of loss that makes you doubt and question what works and what is going to ultimately deliver you wins. It's the kind of loss that makes you think maybe it doesn't work. And the good news is, at least so far, is they seem to say, if we do what we did in the first three quarters, we're going to win games. If we do what we did in the first three quarters, we have a chance to win in Chicago against Eastern Conference's best team. Gotta love that faith. Gotta love that looking forward mentality. Gotta love all of that. Gotta love that the Magic fought back in the overtime period, that they didn't, go woe is me. They took a big punch and they hung in there. They didn't get the job done, but they hung in there. The Magic are trying to stay together. They're trying to stay in this fight. But the truth of the matter is, too, that Orlando has to start making steps forward. Each lesson needs to be learned. And when it comes in losses like this, it needs to be learned once. Orlando got their one. Orlando got their bad loss. This was a bad loss. They got this one. It can't happen again. If it does happen again, then we really got to think about, okay, what is this team's future? What more do they need? And obviously we can point and say, okay, the Magic just need a point guard. They need some healthy bodies. I think there's still a ton of optimism about what this team can be and what they will continue to develop into. Even after this game, it's clear there is a lot still to build with and a lot left on the bench to build with. But Orlando cannot be suffering losses like this, even in a quote-unquote tanking year. When the chance to win comes, you win. When you've got a game done in the books, you win it. And the Magic's inability to do that in this game is extremely, extremely frustrating. But it's a lesson they needed. So now we'll see what happens the next time they get put in this situation. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. Of course, find us on Twitter at Locked On Magic. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Himalaya, Google Play, Spotify, Odyssey, and all the fun places on the podcast. So your podcast-enabled listening device. You can find me on Twitter at PhilipRR_V. And of course, for the latest on the Orlando Magic, be sure to check out OrlandoMagicDaily.com. You can follow us there on Twitter at OMagicDaily. Thank you for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. Tomorrow we'll have a complete recap of the Orlando Magic's game against the Chicago Bulls. But now, go make your second listen Locked On Bets, your daily one-stop shop for all your gambling needs. Locked On Bets, hosted by your boy Q with expert analysis and insight from Lee Sterling. It's free and available on all platforms. That's going to do it for me today, though. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. For Orlando Magic Daily and Locked On Magic, this has been Philip Rossman-Reich. We'll see you all again next time for another episode of Locked On Magic.